Did Luke Skywalker inadvertently cause the awakening of the Force in Rey? We're going to talk about it. Welcome back to the Resistance Broadcast. I'm John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we have a great show in store for you. The Will of the Force is back. We're going to run down a bunch of those, and we have an excellent discussion coming up, pitched to us by one of our listeners, about Luke possibly causing that awakening in Rey. Before we do that, time to say hi once again to the crew. It's James Baney. It's Lacey Gillerin. What's going on?
Back again. It's Thursday. Do you know what that means, guys? It means that tomorrow is Friday, which means that it's the weekend, which means that it's really close to Monday. Oh, but there's another episode on Monday. I'm just glad today's Thursday.
It's a cycle. It's a beautiful cycle.
That is true. It is a cycle. It does kind of go in the same. Whoa. I'm going to have to think on that. Lacey, you talk. I'll think on the cycle.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm excited to talk about Star Wars. We're here. It's great. It's wonderful. Having fun.
Okay, and I'm gonna go off that enthusiasm and say that I'm really excited about our first segment tonight. It's called The Will of the Force, and if you haven't heard it yet, we've been running this thing out there week after week because it's really fun. It's to the point.
Did you say it was
and
fun?
we have a lot of topics and hype. What?
So you said it was fun, right?
It's very fun.
Did you mention that it was fun, John?
It's super fun.
It's like it's as much fun as you could possibly have.
You'd think we did this for entertainment.
I'd like to think so. But we've been, you guys have given us feedback on this. You love it. We love it. So we're going to bring it back to you again. We have a bunch of topics to get into. So James Baney, The Will of the Force, what is going on this week, my man?
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
Well, I got a bunch of questions, and they all start with Will, and they are not addressed.
Will who? Smith?
To him. Yeah, exactly. But let's get started with this first one. And the question is, will we see a movie, an animated series, or a live-action show set within the time frame of the original trilogy? So this means that we're probably looking at either recasting or animating Han, Luke, Leia, or maybe new characters, kind of like a Lost Stars thing. But John, what do you think? Will it? Will we?
We will. And I think it's going to be both. I think they'll do live actions with different characters set inside the time frame, and maybe it'll be cross events, like you'll see someone else's point of view of the Death Star blowing up, kind of like they've done that in
Battlefront.
I forget what book it was. Yeah, what was that book they did? Inferno Squad, where they did it the vantage point of Imperials with the Death Star.
Yeah, that's in the game. And then in the, I guess they did it in the book as well. But Lost Stars, I think, is the most famous one for kind of tackling the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm. And then animated, I could see them doing something, not Forces of Destiny, because I'm not counting that. No, we've kind of already seen that. But another series that takes place also within this time frame. And it'd be cool if they, did the characters that we love. But if not, that's cool too. But I say short answer, we will, and it'll be both. We'll see a live action and an animated at some point down the line.
All right, Lacey, will we see animated movie live action?
I'm delaying because I don't think so. I think it's one of those things that the new show coming out with Favreau is not going to take place during this time period. I don't think the movies from Rian Johnson and B-Dubs will take place during this time period. Animated series, do you count Forces of Destiny? Because that's the only one that would make sense.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, no.
I think those are shorts. We're talking a series.
Yeah, I think what we've experienced with the sequel trilogy is that you have a new generation of fans and young people that are growing up knowing Rey and Kylo and Finn, Poe and Phasma and BB-8, and I think you're going to see Disney and Lucasfilm moving into exploring those different stories and different characters in general. I mean, James, you said this weeks ago that you would love to see new characters and that's where the money's at, and I agree with that statement. Mm-hmm. I think people want new things to tell. They don't want the same stuff over and over and over again. I think that's why people connected so easily with Enfys Nest, because she was just someone no one knew who it was. And it turned out to be this young girl, and it was strong, and she was
mystery,
ready to fight. Yeah. So I'm going to go with no. No, absolutely not. No.
For me, animated series, I say 100%. At some point, they're going to tackle that, and that's how they're going to do it. They might even tell us new adventures of Luke and Leia and Han and stuff like that. But movie and live action is a lot trickier, and I if my gut says no right now, I think they're going to try to stay away from that era, because if they get too serious with it live action, then you're talking, I don't know. They don't want it to turn into like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it's like, oh, you didn't hear? It's Luke Skywalker over there off screen that we can't show. It just gets kind of strange. But let's move on to the next question. Will Star Wars Resistance, speaking of animation, reveal anything major or significant to the character of Poe Dameron? Character-defining qualities of Poe Dameron in Star Wars Resistance. Lacey, will they?
I hate to be that negative person tonight, but no. I don't think they're going to do anything that will throw off who Poe is as a character in the movies. I think if you're looking at mainstream media, everyone knows the movies and has seen the movies, and that's what they know. They don't necessarily know all the comics and books and other things that James thoroughly enjoys that not every single Star Wars fan enjoys. So I can't see everyone being involved with Resistance. I'll be watching it. We're all going to be watching it, but I can't see them making like some crazy decision about Poe Dameron where they wouldn't be able to connect it in the movies. I could see them making like little things here and there, but nothing like major.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with no, because I think if my feeling from this show is to be believed, there isn't going to be a lot of substance as far as like big pivotal character development or anything like that. I think this show is going to be more about fun and adventure and just kind of like getting the mission done and doing your job and being part of the team and stuff like that. And I know that seems a little kiddie, but we kind of just got backed up with the Dave Filoni showrunner news. I'm sure everybody's kind of well aware of that, but I just don't think there's going to be anything like major heavy in this, but I don't know. Either way, I'm going to like the show. I think I'm going to be happy with it. John, what do you think? Do you think they're going to go deeper than what I'm laying on?
Yeah. Will they do anything major or reveal anything significant about Poe Dameron in Star Wars Resistance? I'm going to say no Dameron. I don't think so.
That was
Lacey
the best joke you've ever made.
Oh, it hurts. I'm grabbing my chest.
Guys, that'll do it for me. I'll see you guys next week. Take it away, James and Lacey.
That was the best joke you've ever made. Hands down, no, Dameron.
Terrific. That one may come back then. So originally I bought into the whole thing. Oh, this is going to be another lore deep dive type of show because it's Filoni, and I bought it hook, line, and sinker. But James, to your credit, you were kind of off that since early on, as we talked more about this show, and I'm starting to lean that way. So you've kind of convinced me a little bit, James, that it may be more of a light type of program, which leads me to my answer of no Dameron, because I don't think we're going to get too much here. And even like you once alluded to a few episodes ago, Poe may not even be that big of a part of this. So that's my answer there. Nothing big coming from Camp Dameron out of Star Wars Resistance.
All right. Well, the next question on the docket is, will the Star Wars original trilogy be released again in theaters? Are we ever going to see this thing come back to the big screen? And I mean in a major way, or I assume you mean when you wrote the question, in a major way, large market release. For me, I'm going to say yes. I think eventually. No, you know what? I take it back. Nope, I'm going no.
Are you going no Dameron?
Switch.
Yeah, I'm going no Dameron on this one.
It's just so good. No Dameron.
It's our new T-shirt, James.
Yeah, there
no
you
Dameron.
go. My gut is these movies are so big. Like eventually, at some point, something's going to happen where they go, we're going to redo it, or digital re-release, or we've done this or something. I don't know. But then again, I just think like I doubt it. I doubt it. I think it's just going to be whatever it is, and it's just going to never show up in theaters again. But let me hear what you guys say. Lacey, what do you got? You think that it'll ever come back in theaters?
Absolutely. I think it's, made to be seen in the theater. I would love to see it in the movie theater. I think you're going to see with this coming episode 9, that you'll see marathons. We saw it with a couple other series, including this one where they had like Force Awakens and then Last Jedi back to back. I could see them doing like a 3-day marathon leading up to episode 9.
But is that like a wide release?
They do it in usually all AMC theaters, so that's pretty wide.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I'm just thinking like how Special Edition was like the only real re-release we ever got of Star Wars.
Where it had a run, like it's in the theaters for weeks. Yeah.
So this is like a side question. Someone brought up to me, aka my boss brought up to me, that he says that he saw Ewan McGregor as a Force ghost. That doesn't exist, right?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And can I say that when you said, and I forget what they call this, I think it's like indoctrination or Freud or whatever. When you said, I have a question, I was shocked that it wasn't how dare you.
It's a no Dameron.
All right, John, well, do you think that they're ever going to re-release these movies in theaters?
Yes, they are. They're going to. A few years, probably 5 or so years after episode 9's out, and they announced episode 10, they're going to re-release 1 through 9 in 2-week intervals in the spring of 2024 or something like that, when they get all the rights.
That's a bold statement. You're going to be able to take your kid to that.
That's right. When they get all the rights back for the distribution from Time Warner or Turner, whoever it has it, and they put it onto the Disney streaming service. After that, they're going to kick it off with a theatrical run of all the movies, and it's going to be fantastic. And I'm going to go see every one of them except Attack of the Clones
with your son.
Why didn't they re-release 4, 5, and 6 before 7 came out?
What's that?
Why didn't they release 4, 5, and 6 before 7 came out?
Because they didn't.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Will Joonas Suotamo have a chance to play Chewbacca again after he finishes filming episode 9? John, I'm going to shoot it right back at you. What do you think about this one?
John's favorite Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And I only say that because I really hope so.
That's fair.
That's I never can get enough of Chewie. And, if they do eventually do in episode 10, he'll still be a pretty young guy. It'd be cool to like make him, be the guy to continue Chewbacca and not just, let's find another 7-foot basketball player who didn't make the NBA.
He's super nice too.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't matter, but he is super
nice.
And
whether it's, we even speculated on if they don't do a solo sequel, maybe a solo TV series. I mean, the Chewbacca's not done. So, and I think he's the guy to fill the suit. So, yeah, he will.
Yeah, I am going to agree with that at some point or another, he will be showing up again, just simply because exactly your point, actually. I believe that it's already been handed off. The torch has already been handed to him. And I don't think anybody is planning to like undercut him and be like, whoa, we could just get somebody else. You know what I mean? I think like they're making it pretty clear that this is the new guy. This is the new Chewbacca. And it would just be a bummer, just the same way as like we say it's a missed opportunity to pass up on the Obi-Wan film, while you've got this guy and he's here and he's ready and he's willing. You know what I mean? It's like we have this guy who wants to be Chewbacca and would be willing to be Chewbacca, and he's great at it. Why can't he show up in a TV series or something, So it's definitely happening, in my opinion. But let's hear what Lacey has to say. Will Joonas come back and do Chewbacca again?
So I'm going to give my answer with like an asterisk. And it's yes, if he's playing Chewbacca with Han Solo. No, if it's after episode 9. Because I'm going to be that scumbag and say that I think Chewbacca's going to die in 9.
Ooh.
Jeez.
Yes, if it's like prior to episode 9. No, if it's after 9.
Wow.
Man.
You just laid your cards on the table and said, beat that.
He's died in canon before.
Hold on a minute.
This isn't something we haven't seen before.
Lacey, let me ask you this. Is this a bit, or do you really think Chewbacca is going to die in episode 9?
No, Dameron, I actually believe that he might die.
That wasn't the answer I wanted. Damn it.
All right.
And you know what? If we're sitting in the theater, John, and Chewbacca dies and Ben Solo dies, we can hold each other and cry.
I'm going to leave it. If they kill Chewbacca, I'll leave, and you have to tell me the rest of the movie.
Yeah. If you guys disagree with that, you know who to at. All right. Next question is, To tail end off the recent discussion of ours.
Wait. Hold on. James, do you think he's going to survive or die in episode 9?
I'll survive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Woo!
I don't see why they would. I mean, it's the same as R2-D2 in my opinion. I get it that they've killed him off before, so there's a precedent, but I just don't see why they would. I mean, he's 190 years old, but he looks great. Moving on to the next question here. To tail end off of recent discussion that we just had, will the use of Force Ghosts end with Star Wars Episode 9? John, Force Ghosts.
Yes.
They're done.
It's done. They are done. Force Ghosts are done with Episode 9, and they're going to be used quite well, as we know, via Luke Skywalker. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think they're going to wrap it up after 9 in terms of Force Ghosts.
All right. Lacey, what do you say?
I think that Force Ghosts will end with 9, pending who dies.
Ooh.
But as for like Luke, Yoda, Obi-Wan, absolutely, those are done. I mean, this is the end of their story.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see who continues on after 9, I guess.
I'm going to say there's no chance they ever get rid of Force Ghosts.
Which is amazing because, James, you're the one that said that you didn't want Force Ghosts.
I don't want Force Ghosts, but I don't. I think that it becomes a problem when you have actors that are really alive. How are they going to explain that? But as far as the lore goes, I think that it makes sense that someone down the line, they're going to want to tell a story 1,000 years later, and the Force is bigger. Obviously, it's possible. So the fact that only like 3 or 4 people were ever able to do it doesn't make a lot of sense. Somehow that knowledge is going to be conveyed to other people, and other characters who believe in the Force are going to be able to use it in that manner. There's always going to be Force Ghosts, I think, because it's a tool to use in the Star Wars storytelling universe. Last question though: will Snoke's alleged other apprentices arrive and have an impact in Episode 9? Lacey, I'm jumping back at you. Snoke, apprentice? What are we talking about? Are they coming back?
So in the book, I believe it's The Last Jedi Visual Dictionary, correct? By Pablo?
Yes.
He left the door open in the sense that he was like, Snoke was the master to Kylo Ren and one other apprentice. Like, it was so specific.
At least one other apprentice, I believe.
At least one.
Yeah.
But it kind of leaves that door open that you're like, what if? Mm-hmm. I would die if Carrie Russell ends up to be this other, like, badass apprentice that, like, we didn't know existed. But I think that'd be a little crazy to introduce in Episode 9.
Like Thor's sister or something? Like, just showing up in the third movie? Like,
I want to say yes because I think it would be super cool, but I don't see that happening in the sense of, like, storytelling to just introduce someone random in the last chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with no.
Like Admiral Akbar?
How dare you?
How dare you? All right.
There it is.
John, I'm going to let you give your answer, and then I'll wrap up. What do you think?
Geez, this is one of the toughest ones. I think I'm going to say no. But honestly, if it happens, it wouldn't shock me, and they could pull it off. But I do feel like the general audience, like the 99% of Star Wars fans who don't know what the visual dictionary is, will feel it's very shoehorned and like forced and looked at as a way to just find an outlet for Kylo Ren to like find his way to redemption. We have this other villain that's more villainy than he is. And so I say no, but they could do it. But I'm going to say with JJ and all these things that I'm thinking about here, no.
John, what would you do if come Episode 9, it ends up that Hux is that other apprentice, and the whole time he's been playing this game, and he just whips his jacket off, and all of a sudden he's got a lightsaber, and he's like, I've been waiting for this moment.
I'm Super Hux.
And he pulls out the double-bladed.
Yeah, he just like in 3 seconds grows this powerful ginger beard, and he's just like, I'm Super Hux. Man, that'd be so stupid.
And then it ends up Hux is Obi-Wan's grandson.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He disappears using the Force and then reappears behind him and says, "Hello there." Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that a no Dameron?
That's getting too crazy. Getting back to the Snoke's alleged apprentice that is not Hux, hopefully.
James, please give us a legit answer now.
No, I think John did give a legit answer, and
I'm saying from like my BS. That's what I was saying. From my crazy theory.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
yeah, I think
Super
John
Hux.
nails it. I think it's possible that if they wanted to do that, but the problem is I just really don't think they will, considering that's the fan in us that has found some sort of story plot from a footnote of a like info dictionary. You know what I mean? It's just like we wrote this own story in our heads that maybe there's some sort of plot line that they were setting up, and I don't think really ever that's ever really been the case, you know, especially for the new movies. I mean, it is funny. There have been things. There was actually I read Lost Stars, the book, and that came out long after episode 7. And then a year later or so, I was reading the visual dictionary, and in the visual dictionary, there were notes that laid out the whole ending to that book. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, this is literally the ending to that book. And it was here all the time, the whole time, and we never really paid attention to it because it was just the footnote. All that being said, I still don't really think that is going to be our first clue or our first hint at the storyline of episode 9. So
You know what'll happen, James?
What?
You know what they'll do? They
Tell me,
won't
John.
do it.
Tell me, John.
They won't do it. And then when they write the inevitable Snoke book that everyone's going to be begging for,
Yeah.
they'll show him killing the previous apprentice when he finds Kylo Ren and says, "That's the one I want, so I'm going to kill my current apprentice," or something like that.
Yes, I didn't mention that, but when I saw that footnote, it immediately screamed out to me that it was a setup for a book or a comic or something later down the line where they tell us a little bit more about Snoke's history, because they confirm it. It says he has had at least one other apprentice. Maybe 12, but at least one. So we do know that
maybe
he had
30.
one. Yeah, 30, 31. Where does it stop?
Yeah.
32,
Maybe 1,138.
33. So
All of a sudden, Duel of the Fates just starts creeping up the deeper we dive into insanity.
that was officially the longest Will of the Force we've ever done, but it was a good one, and I'm glad we had all that discussion. We got to get into another discussion. I'm going to let John take it away and explain what we're talking about, but man, I'm excited for this.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed last Thursday's Star Wars War, because we are taking it a little easier today. We're doing, with the gloves are back on or off. I forget how that works. But thanks to our listener, Blogga the Hutt at Blogga the Hutt. Way to get your handle, Blogga. Our discussion begs the question, did Luke Skywalker create Rey's awakening? So did Luke Skywalker inadvertently create the awakening in Rey when he shut off himself from the Force? And they came to that by saying, and this is again our listener, Blogga the Hutt said, according to Snoke, the light was already going to rise to meet Kylo's darkness. Skywalker, he presumed. If Luke hadn't cut himself off from the Force, would the Force still have awoken in Rey? And I found that really interesting because I never really thought about that. So what do we think? Did Luke Skywalker shutting himself off from the Force create the need for the light to rise elsewhere so powerfully that it caused the awakening to happen in Rey? So let's talk about it. What do you guys think? Off the bat, and then we can kind of spin it out of control.
Off the bat, it sounds like a plausible theory. It sounds like that's the new thing that they're going with in this trilogy, is that Kylo Ren was getting really strong, so therefore there had to be somebody else that in the light side that also was just going to kind of obtain Force power one way or another, however they like it, which is kind of a new way to understand the Force, considering when Palpatine and Vader were really strong, Obi-Wan and Yoda weren't just magically getting Force ability, So it's kind of a new thing that they're doing here. But if that is in fact how they're going to kind of explain Rey's awakening, and awakening in the Force being the fact that Snoke and Kylo are getting so strong, it makes sense. It's got to go somewhere, and he assumed that it would go to Luke, but that's assuming that Luke, he would have to know that Luke had a bunch of power, cut himself off from the Force, but then it would be put back into Luke. Is that what because he knows it's got to go somewhere, and he's assuming it would go to Luke, the same Luke that has cut himself off from the Force. I don't know. It's kind of tricky there. Lacey, you take it away from here, because I got to think.
So, first of all, this sentence creeps me out because I can hear Andy Serkis saying Skywalker, I presume, where he does that creepy laugh and sets the lightsaber down, and it just creeps me out, and then he touches her face and I'm like, ew, stop it. No, I think Rey was always destined to meet Kylo's darkness. I think it's one of those things that it's like destiny. We talk about destiny a lot in Star Wars and what's meant to happen, whether, they want to accept it or not. And even in the Last Jedi novelization, Rey has this moment where she could have killed Kylo, and she says, what will happen is what she learned, that the Force will things to happen. So I think in The Last Jedi, when she looks at Luke and says, there's something, and it's always been there, but now it's awake. I don't think her awakening is due to Skywalker. I think it's due to Kylo. I think he's the one that kicked off her awakening more than Skywalker did, because Skywalker was in hiding for a while before she finally had these, abilities in the Force. I think it was because she saw Kylo, he awakened that in her, so to speak. She was forced to take on these new powers that she didn't need previously because there was no one challenging her. And then in Last Jedi, you have Skywalker and Rey together, and he still doesn't challenge her. And he says she's too much for him and he needs to walk away from it. So I think that saying that Skywalker's the reason she had a Force awakening is kind of ridiculous, only in the sense that if there's anything we've learned from Rey in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it's that she doesn't need anybody to tell her what to do. And she doesn't need anybody to tell her how to use the Force or how to be strong or how to make the right decision. She does all those things on her own. And I think that's why, no, Skywalker did not do this for her. She did it on her own from the day that she was left on Jakku to now. She's been on her own, and she knows how to hold her own, so to speak.
So
you're saying Rey is she did it, she caused it to happen.
She didn't cause it to happen. I'm saying the Force willed it for her to have this awakening. I think it was destined to happen. It wasn't Skywalker closing himself off. I think it was just what the Force needed to balance, and that wasn't necessarily Luke. Because he went to a dark side place when he tried to kill Kylo. So to say that he's completely light, that's ignorant to what Skywalker challenges. Luke's challenges throughout his life are this battle with dark and light. You have someone like Kylo who steps up who's super dark. You have to have someone who's super light, and that's not going to be Luke.
Yeah, but again, I don't think Kylo's super dark either. I think he's got a little bit of light in him. So I think just overall on average, there's a dark side, and then Luke would be like the opposing light side. But I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to get like a timestamp on things. Like, okay, there's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Okay, so we know that the awakening happened before that. Did Kylo recently become a lot stronger right before The Force Awakens started? Or was it been is the reference to, hey, there's been an awakening over the past year, have you felt it? Or was it like an all of a sudden out of nowhere, Kylo recently got really powerful and the Force is just like, we don't know what to do. We got to distribute this somehow.
I think it's layered.
Yeah.
I think Kylo Ren's rise to darkness, we saw steps he took to become darker, tests that were put in front of him. Which way do you want to choose? Do you want to go this way or that way? And he chose darkness. And then again, darkness rises and the light to meet it in The Last Jedi. Do you want to go this way or do you want to go that way? He chose darkness. I'm thinking more of Snoke's statement. Darkness rises and the light to meet it. I think everything's connected here. So I don't think it's just she had the Force awakened in her to balance out Kylo's darkness. I think Luke's involved as well. I think every moving part is involved here. In terms of like the choice, I don't think it's any one of those things where people are like, oh, Rey didn't need Luke to do that. I just think it happened to be a matter of circumstance. Luke happened to shut himself off from the Force, and there was a lack of the light side strength compared to what is rising with the First Order and with Snoke and Kylo Ren, which may have stirred the awakening in this person, in Rey, who was chosen by the Force for whatever reason. So the fact that Luke shut himself off doesn't mean that she didn't, have that within her always anyway. It just like the void was there and the balance needed to happen. So that may have triggered it. Now, whether you
I guess the bigger question here that kind of drills down in this question is if we believe the Force is destiny or the Force is a reaction to the choice, like the will of choice. You know what I mean? Like people's choices and the will and the Force reacts based compared to something that's destiny.
I look at it as that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like instead of something being predetermined,
right?
You're saying on the other hand, I'm saying it's always been decided that this was always going to happen.
Yeah,
You're saying no, based on these choices by these people, the Force reacted.
Yeah, so you're talking free will versus predestination.
Well, what
Right.
I'm saying is it was going to always happen within her. It was always there. She said it was always there. The moment of time and when it happened may have been influenced by Luke's decisions over time and Kylo's growth in darkness. Now, I'm thinking right now about that moment when she's on the rocks with Luke and she finally tunes into the Force and she sees nature and both sides of the dark and light and how it balances natural, right? That's what I think the Force always wants, because you see the eggs of the porgs and then you see them smashing against the rocks. You see the bones and you see life. You see the plants growing, you see the plants dying. So the Force will react and need to create that balance however it needs to create it. The void
But has it ever been balanced?
That's a crazy question. Yeah, I don't know.
Firstly, you said that the bigger question is this, but I always think that the biggest question is what does it mean to bring balance to the Force? Because the most common answer you get is some sort of balance between light and dark, and they explain that in The Last Jedi. But I actually think that's kind of not the best answer to that question, and I think they may have slightly misstepped on that, because if that is truly what balance means, then the Jedi were like stupid for like 1,000 years, because they were totally winning and their prophecy was about the person who was going to bring balance to the Force, meaning you're talking about the one that we've been waiting for, the one that's going to make the dark rise. Like that, it doesn't make any sense for that to be the prophecy and what that really means to bring balance to the Force. But it's very clear that that's what they're trying to do with the new movies.
Yeah, the Jedi thought the chosen one would be the one that would bring balance by destroying the Sith.
Yes.
That was the Jedi.
But is that balance then?
Yes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be balance,
No,
but that
it
was
would
their
be
definition of
balance.
balance. For them.
No, not for them. It depends on your definition of balance, which I have my own reasoning based on what the prequels set up, but now I try to look at it a little bit differently based on what the sequels are setting up.
Yeah, Luke basically saying the Jedi were wrong and they took it down a different path.
Could be, maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much what he said to Rey.
No, I know, but he doesn't. He says that the Jedi did this and this and this, but he doesn't necessarily they were wrong about the prophecy or that the prophecy was misread. In fact, Yoda was the one that presented that idea. But so I don't think what Luke is saying about a balance is necessarily contradicting. I mean, I think it is contradicting, but I don't think he's intending to contradict. I think they're trying to expand on that. But anyway, I still think to get back to the original question is, I do think that something had to happen that is actually like a large explosion of the Force. That's the Force awakening. Because this understanding of as Kylo and Snoke began to rise, the light was rising as well, doesn't sound like an awakening. Like he doesn't say, the light is beginning to awaken. Have you felt it? It's like, no, it has awoken. Boom, it's up, it's here. There's been an awakening. So it's almost like it was a recent event that like something big happened. Did you feel that? I feel that. Do you feel that? Kind of a thing. And I'm trying to place together what could have caused that to happen. I do know that at the beginning of The Last Jedi novelization, they talk a little bit about what Luke was feeling. And he was having these dreams, and he seemed to think that it was the Force telling him that something big was about to happen. And I don't know if that is the awakening of the Force.
Well, I always took it as the awakening of the Force in Rey is when she discovered her abilities without realizing what they were. Like when she was in the Falcon and she was steering and doing all these instinctual things, and then her and Finn meet up in the center, and he's like, how'd you do that? She's like, I have no idea. And then soon after that,
I thought it was when she hits the Rathtar, the door.
It's around those times, because then after that, Snoke says that to Kylo Ren, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it's tricky because her piloting skills, I don't know, are necessarily because of the Force. I agree with you, John. She does say, like, I'm not really sure how I did that, but...
Yeah, she goes, I have no clue how I did that, just did that.
Well, the Rathtar door, that's what she says. He goes, oh my God, the door, and then she was like, that was lucky.
Yeah, that too. That moment too. It's
Yeah.
like, she keeps having these moments where she's like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm just really good. But I guess another question we could position this way. Mm-hmm. Let's say Luke was... good old Luke from the end of Return of the Jedi and never got jaded and never went to the island or shut himself off. Does the awakening still occur at the same exact moment for Rey then? Is there a need for it to happen at that moment then? If Luke is still there, as Snoke thought, if Skywalker returns, the new Jedi will rise. Does it need to happen in that moment? That's another way to look at it here.
Well, Snoke, presuming on what you said earlier, Snoke would still probably have his apprentice, and the dark would still be rising within the First Order. Then again, I don't really know how much influence Kylo Ren, having just abandoned Luke, had to do with the First Order. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We really don't know how influence... Like, again, one theory that I still think is possible is Snoke used to be a better dude. Like, he used to hang out with Leia and Luke and Ben and was kind of like Palpatine. You know what I mean? He was always bad, maybe, but he was around.
Back when he went by Joe.
Yeah,
right.
Joe Snoke. So, I mean, I think it's possible that if Luke continued to be good and Kylo maybe never turned, I don't know. I mean, does Kylo turning have anything to do with Snoke also being bad? I don't know. It's all a mess right now because we don't really know, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not knocking Rian Johnson for that. I'm saying currently right now, we just don't know what that story is. They haven't told us. So the speculation runs wild. Lacey, I haven't heard from you in a little bit. What's going through your head? Because there's a lot. This is a deep discussion for me. I feel like it opens the door to many possibilities, and all of them are based on I would have to guess.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's like based on each one of our values and what we believe the will of the Force is. I honestly think it's destiny, and I think she was chosen to carry on this role before she even existed. I mean, it's like one of those things that's like they knew Luke, the Force willed Luke to happen, and then this happened. Rey happened because of Luke, and I don't know. I just don't think that people's choices were as important in making all of this happen. I think it was kind of one of those things that it's going to happen if it happens. And that's based on Jason Fry's book, where he was like, the Force will will it if it wants to.
Mm-hmm. As much as I totally hear that side of the story, because I do believe that there's destiny, in this fantasy world, I also think that the story of Star Wars is all about choice and free will, and saying that the future can be changed. And like, Ben Solo was not destined to become dark. He hadn't made that choice yet. And Luke doing what he did potentially is the reason that set him on that course. And he regrets that now, because he knows that it was Luke. He knows that it was his own choice to do that to Ben that caused that. And then, you know what I mean? So it's like all those things being, because if you start to get into the predestination or the destiny of it, then you start to think, well, Luke didn't really have a choice. The Force said, we need Luke to be bad right now because the rise of Kylo Ren needs to happen. So it just put dark things in him and forced him to do what he did. And it's like, I don't really think, my gut says that's not the story of Star Wars. John, break the tie. John's like, I like ice cream and I really need a bowl right now.
Yeah. No, I actually had ice cream for dessert tonight, so I'm good.
Right.
No, I really do think that it wasn't a random like, okay, we need light side force now, and the wheel lands on, boom, that girl right there. Like, it wasn't like that. It was like, I think with Lacey, like she was saying, and how that line from Rey in The Last Jedi, it was always there, and she confirms it to herself that it was always there. So I think she was chosen. She has this, and it's just, to me, a matter of, did the awakening occur because of the need for it due to Skywalker not being in tuned for a certain period of time? And I'm leaning towards yes. I really am. And it has nothing to do with necessarily Luke's decision. It's just a matter of circumstance. And I think that Luke's absence from the Force, by tuning out of it, paired with the rise of the dark side, triggered the awakening and the moment, and why it was so big of a moment, and not like when Luke was like, oh, now I could sort of see it with the blast shield on. That was interesting. And Obi-Wan's like, you took your first step. Rey was just like, I have the Force, holy cow, and let's do this thing. It was always there. And I kind of get that. So that's my take on it. It's like I said, it's layered. It's Luke's absence, it's the rise of darkness, and it's the fact that it was always there in Rey, and it needed to be exponentially launched to kind of bring that necessary balance and clash.
I don't know, man. It's tricky to me because I just look back at like so many other stories. Like, well, when Palpatine and Vader, basically the two biggest dark side users of all time, when they both passed away within 10 minutes of each other, what was the Force thinking then? Was it like, dude, we need to get like double dark side power into like some people like right now? You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, well then
maybe that's when,
I know, maybe that's when Snoke got it, and he was doing his thing. And then yeah, I don't know, like, did Luke ever get stronger? Because I would imagine then Snoke continued to get stronger. So Luke and Snoke are going toe to toe. They're not hanging out maybe. And then like Luke decides to turn it off and the Force is like, crap, I thought we had something going there. But still that, and then so they put it in Rey. But it's like that the whole thing still kind of doesn't make sense because Snoke's the one saying, I thought it was going to be Luke that received the Force to meet our rise in the dark.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
what I said is pretty much my closing argument. So, I mean, not argument, but that's my point of view on how I answered that question. So I think it was a part of it. Luke's tuning out.
And Lacey, you're saying the same thing, or are you saying
Not that?
not that?
Yeah, it's kind of similar, but I honestly think it was always going to be Rey, and she didn't need anybody to, she didn't need Luke to shut himself off to have her awakening. I think it was always going to happen whether Luke did something or not. I think she was chosen by the Force to be that person that would step up.
So you still think it would have been in that moment and all that stuff is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Right on.
I'm gonna go with no, and the only reason I'm really going with no on it is because I still really believe that the better story is not that the Force is just like a giant power scale, and that it goes a little bit of dark over here. Guess we need a little light over there. I think that there's good in everything, and when those things become perverse, then the bad. And in order to maintain balance and get back to where we're all on track, we need to eliminate the bad things that are slowing us down. You got 4 wheels on your car, one of them pops, you got to fix that problem to bring back balance to the car. You know what I mean? And fix your issue and keep going the way it's intended to be. But and I like that story better because then it really is. It's kind of like good versus evil, in the sense of like good is actually a good thing, and not like bad's also okay too. Because I don't like the idea of people saying that, well, we need bad guys too. There has to be some people who are murderers because we need balance. Like I just don't ever like that story. So, but that's a bigger argument.
So
for
you
what does it
hated
mean
The
to bring
Last Jedi,
balance
is what
to
you're
for?
saying?
No, I think that the idea of
Where'd
Gray
you go,
Jedi.
James?
Yeah, no.
He's frozen on such a...
I just think the idea of Gray Jedi and that understanding of balance, like it's a video game and you can choose between being light or dark.
Whoa. I never said anything about Gray Jedi.
But that's what Gray Jedi is. It's the balance of light and dark.
There's no such thing as Gray Jedi.
I understand but there is like gray Force users. You know what I mean? Some people who are like, they're pretty cool, but sometimes they kind of suck. But that's what makes them so great, is they kind of suck. So
your closing
sometimes.
argument was what?
That no, I don't believe that the Force just shifts around when people decide they don't want to use it or they get killed off. I don't like that idea. But I don't know, maybe that's where they're going.
Right on. Well, Blogga, we hope you dug our answers. I think we all... Because it's such a layered thing, we all kind of had our own unique different answers and approach to this. We're on the same page on some things, and we're on different pages on other things. But obviously, let us know what you think, since you asked us that. And everyone else out there listening, let us know what you think as well about this topic. We could probably talk about it a lot more in the future, and definitely after episode 9, we can revisit this thing. So, hit us up in the comments on YouTube and on Twitter and email, whatever you want to do. Let us know what you think about this discussion, and we hope you enjoyed it. But now, we usually go to Resistance Transmissions, but we did that on Monday. So today, it's fun time, and it's your questions. So, Lacey, what's cracking in hashtag Ask the Resistance?
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
So it's time for hashtag Ask the Resistance, and as they love when I say, you've got questions, we've got answers. So we're going to get started. We have Luke Groshin at Turkle Tilden, my favorite Twitter handle, and he says, hashtag Ask the Resistance. Do you all think that we will see a new type of First Order trooper in 9? We got a flame trooper with 7. The execution trooper in 8. I'm hopeful for a First Order scout trooper or even a death trooper to accompany the Knights of Ren. John, I'm going to start with you with this one.
Yeah, you are.
Make the 501st happy.
Yeah, you're gonna get your action figures to sell and your costumes to create, and these characters are gonna be completely pointless in episode 9. Just like the Death Troopers were completely pointless in Rogue One, just like the Executioners were worthless in Episode 8. They literally didn't even execute anybody. The Praetorian
But they had that
Guards.
sweet, like, laser weapon.
Technically,
They
they're
had cool
judicials, and they did judge.
Yeah, but they didn't execute. And the Praetorian Guards were turned into tomato sauce, as I like to say. So you keep going down the line, keep giving us these troopers, and people will buy these action figures and hope for great things because they'll be promoted to high hell, and their weapons will look cool, and then they'll be on screen for 30 seconds and be completely pointless. So yeah, we will get a new trooper. It's going to be called the It Doesn't Matter a Trooper.
Dirt
and
Trooper.
I think it yeah. Completely pointless a trooper, and they are going to stock the shelves with them, and you're going to buy them up because they're cool looking, but they're not going to have any significance in Episode 9 whatsoever. So to answer your question, yes, on the technical point.
Luke, I'm so sorry. I hope you enjoyed that answer. Next is PPRI SEP. I don't know, Percep at Fisharm 14. Those are the two most different name/handles I've ever seen. John, they did not lock up their handle with that
No,
one.
they didn't. Yeah.
And they said, if it was so important to hide the twins from Anakin/Vader, why did Luke use his real surname? James, King of the Lore.
All right.
What is your answer?
Try to follow me on this because I'm going to be jumping around a lot. The Pablo Hidalgo headcanon is that he did, in fact, use the name Luke Lars until he heard about his father, found out his last name, and the first time he ever actually took that name was on the Death Star when he came in and he said, "I'm Luke Skywalker." Like, he changed his name, new identity. That's who he was. Now, that being said, there's a scene later in the movie where he's seen with Biggs and he's addressed as Skywalker, and Biggs doesn't even question it. So it kind of implies that he's been called Skywalker for a long time. And he was also kind of mentioned in the deleted scenes by the name Skywalker as well by Biggs. So there was never really an intention there. The other thing, too, is that Tatooine was never intended to be Anakin's home when they made the original movies. So calling him Luke Skywalker doesn't necessarily mean, like, why would they send him back to the place where Anakin grew up? Like, that doesn't make any sense, because at the time when they wrote it, it didn't matter if he was named Skywalker because Tatooine was supposed to be like a poop hole. It's some in the end of the galaxy where no one cared about any of that stuff.
Okay, that's pretty much nowhere.
Yeah, that's pretty much nowhere. Not to mention, too, even if his name was Skywalker, do you really think Vader's good at figuring that out? Considering Bail Organa was kind of like a known supporter of things against the Empire, and he was really good friends with Padme, and he just happened to adopt a daughter at the same time. But I also do know that they made Padme look pregnant when they buried her, or when they had her like showing or funeral viewing, I think is what they call them, in order to make it clear to all people that would be interested in trying to find that child that the child died with her. So Vader's not even looking for anybody named Skywalker. So even if Skywalker's was like all around him, he wasn't looking. So I think that all kind of comes down to the possibility that even though his name is Skywalker, it doesn't really matter.
And protecting George's storytelling loopholes.
Yes.
Okay, and the next question is from Jan K. Van Dalen at JKVD. And Jan asks, rewatch The Last Jedi. It's not totally clear that Leia knows Luke ignited his lightsaber over Ben. Does she or does she not? I'm going to take this one because obviously it's about my baby Ben. I honestly don't think she knows that Luke tried to kill Ben Solo. I think it's one of those things that, like, she knows something went wrong. She knows Luke messed up. Luke admitted he messed up, but she doesn't know the details. That being said, I think even if she did know the details, she wouldn't necessarily hold it over Luke because she feels guilty herself for sending Ben away. So I feel like she thinks her, Luke, and Han have all failed Ben, and that no one person is held responsible.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
But still, Luke tried to kill him. So I just want to harp on that again. Luke tried to kill someone. Okay. But yeah, no, I don't think she knows. But I think she'd forgive him anyway, and I think she did in The Last Jedi. So.
But Lacey.
But what?
If Luke tried to actually kill him, he probably
did.
would have killed him.
Would he? I think
Star
he hesitated,
Wars
and that's
War
where
next,
he failed.
Next Star Wars War.
Yeah, he did. That's a good point. He didn't try and was unsuccessful.
Yeah, I think he tried. I think he hesitated, and that's what was his ultimate downfall. And then you have, Yoda later in the movie saying, like, always looking to the horizon, never focusing on the now. I think that's a prime example of he was focusing on the future of his decision instead of on the decision at the time of what his decision of killing Ben could mean. And then it ultimately worked against him. But, yeah, talk for another time. Well, thank you guys so much for your questions. We really appreciate it. If you want to be on the show and ask a question, make sure to shoot us a question with hashtag #AskTheResistance or Ask James, as he said.
Hey, hashtag
and we'll answer it on the show. Ask the James, sorry. John, back to you.
Okay, so in addition to that, we're also kind of throwing an option out there for you guys to contribute to the Will of the Force. Every once in a while, we'll pop up that logo that James created of the Will of the Force, and if you have one, obviously we went through 6 today, in that vein that you want us to try to tackle, will they, won't they, shoot them over, and if we dig them, we'll use them on the show, and we'll give you a shout-out. So more areas for you guys to be involved in the show, which we love involving you always. So thank you again for your participation. Speaking of participation, make sure you guys are subscribed on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Our segments are now divided up on the show for YouTube as well. So if you're in a pinch and you just want to check out Ask the Resistance or a discussion, you can now do that. Also, follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. Always send us your comments and your questions and just chat with us. We love being on there with you guys. Head to our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, for all of your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and I'm writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com pretty much every week. James Baney, how about you? Where can people reach you for hashtag Ask Chipotle?
Well, that would be on Twitter and Instagram at MyerChunks. But if you're looking for me right now, I'm sitting here wondering, where's all the news? Let's get some news. And then if you're listening on Thursday, you're probably thinking, why the heck aren't they talking about the news that came out this week? Because it will be a couple days after possible big news drop. So we'll see. And here's hoping we get to talk about that on Monday.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's just how it works. But Lacey, how about you? Where can people reach you?
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin, where I talk about Star Wars and how much I love it. And yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. And we will be back with you guys on Monday, where we will be talking about that news that we reported on this past week. I don't even know when. But enjoy your weekends and keep it right here with us. And we'll catch up with you on Monday morning right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.